Greetings, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the You Talk Show. And in this one, we have a very interesting question because privately, I mentioned to Horse that I think that the gambling lobby in Australia may become the fifth power base of Australian politics if they are not curtailed. Currently, we have four. That is mining, the banks, um, the words not come to mind. There's property moguls and mining banks, property moguls. What was the other one? I had it. I had it.
It was fleeting like the wind.
It's media. That's the one. Media. Mining, media, banks, and
Property developers.
property developers. So those are the four power bases in Australia. Property moguls are the most recently established one. And I remarked that the gambling lobby may become the fifth power base of Australian politics. And so we need to now ask, why and how does the gambling lobby have such a large influence on Australian politics?
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, and in an ideal world, we'd just burn the entire suitcase.
Well, yes,
But instead, we're gonna look at this.
I think we should start it. I think we should start it off with one thing first, and that is, aren't there currently laws to try and stop them from having an influence? I think we should examine that because my understanding is that
Yes and no.
Yeah, so let's get into that. Tell us about that, host.
No, I actually need to ask if we can take a detour right away from this because the laws are designed to limit the harm that gambling can do.
Okay.
But I think first we need to have a brief chat about the psychology of gambling. Any of you who are viewing who have ADHD, you're about to be dragged through the gravel. So, I bring up ADHD because we see in people who haven't been diagnosed with or treated for ADHD, but who nonetheless have a presentation that is consistent with ADHD, a higher rate of addiction. We will see a lot of people with untreated ADHD who will turn to comfort eating or ritualistic spending, almost like impulse shopping or drugs.
Yeah, or alcoholism. I'm in that boat. I hopefully will be formally diagnosed and treated for it soon. But I very easily at one point could have become an alcoholic. Very close. But
absolutely,
yeah. Fortunately, I will give my mother this. She taught me well in the field of not being stupid.
Now, the reason for this impulsivity is connected to a neurotransmitter called dopamine. It's one of the big four. You have dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and norepinephrine. And oxytocin is the hormone that tells you it's safe here. It's your trust hormone. It's heavily implicated in bonding between humans. Like if you have a cat and the cat sort of boops its head against your leg, congratulations, your brain's making oxytocin. Serotonin will be familiar to literally anyone who has dealt with antidepressants. It's a surprisingly high amount of the population.
Yeah, actually, I learned recently that that staring at boobs just releases serotonin.
I'm not surprised. Boobs are pretty great. But the one we're talking about here, dopamine, is very, very implicated in the reward pathway of the brain, such as it exists.
Yeah.
When we do a job well, when we can take pride in something, we get a release of dopamine. If you have had a big day at work and it's time to just relax and lie back, ding, 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 dopamine. People with ADHD have a dysregulation in the production and uptake of dopamine. A lot of people do, but this is a side note to the psychology of gambling. Gambling can become as addictive as drugs, as alcohol, as eating an entire frozen cheesecake because you've just been dumped. And the people who design games of chance are very aware that the psychological impact of gambling is important. It's like you design shopping malls in such a way that people can see everything that's on offer. They can make impulse purchases. They can get kind of confused when they're trying to leave the place. It's the same with a gambling hall. Pokies are the best example. They're engineered with their bright lights and their loud noises to have a ready association in your brain with something that brings you pleasure, that makes you feel accomplished, even as they take your money from you. And that is why the law is not entirely good enough. People who design games of chance are explicitly counting on the fact, you could say that they're making a bet themselves that people will be engaged with their games, will want to come back to their games, will feel positively having played their games. And Australians, for some reason, are particularly susceptible.
Well, about that, actually. About
yeah,
that,
I pulled up the data on this
the,
earlier.
Yeah, we are actually the gambling capital of the world, Sydney, if I remember correctly.
We absolutely are.
Yeah.
Just need to quickly. Oh, I printed it out, and I'm
also gambling's kind of getting really ingrained in our society.
So like in 2015, 39% of Australian adults gambled in a typical month. That's 6.8
month. Not at all, but in a typical month.
Yeah. And of those 6.8 million, the average expenditure per person, that's a weird one. But what that means is the average amount that these people have lost to gambling was estimated to be $1,272. Australia holds the title for highest per capita spend on gambling in the world.
Okay, that's a bit crazy. You know,
have you ever watched any James Bond films?
Well, yeah, I've watched them, but I don't.
You know, you see bloody super spy James Bond fucking off to Monaco or Macau for like these high stakes casinos. You'd think that these places with very, very entrenched ideas of entertainment with gambling would have us beat, but no. Pokies in the pot.
You think like
we're
Las
pissing away
Vegas.
$1,200 a month.
Yeah, you think Las Vegas in the US, Nevada, that you think they would be worse? Like that, people would be losing more money there.
Yeah,
but and
just
what I've also realized while we're talking real quickly, you get all these ads on TV non-stop for gambling. I know what TAB is because there's so many. Sportsbet and Tab. I know what they are because every time I open a YouTube video and I don't have ad block on, I get one of those freaking ads.
So I'd just like to come back to that number, that 1,272. That's per capita. That's averaged over the entire population.
Oh, Jesus.
So let's have a quick look at what that actually means.
Not just 1272. Not just the gambling. Not just
divided by 39. And then times 100. Yeah, that's not just the gamblers. So these everyone. Typical people, these people who are gambling in a typical month are actually losing $3,261.54 a month to this.
That's more than I like because
that's more than I make in a month.
Yeah, that was more than I made in a month working in charity fundraising. That's insane.
Okay, so yeah.
And that's, so they're that ingrained in society. And I'm just wondering, because in my mind, my understanding is that there are laws to curtail their influence on politics. Am I correct in that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. But then how are they very fast becoming the fifth pillar? Because I know that they are. I can see their influence, but I can't see, because my understanding of the laws is that they're not allowed to donate, at least at the state level.
Yep. And so I'm just having a look at the breakdown on gambling, right?
Are they allowed to donate at the federal level?
I'm not sure.
Because there aren't many limits at the federal level. Like there are very few. In fact, I think they more recently kind of removed limits. Yeah, I think they removed limits when it came to property developers at the federal level.
So yeah, our highest spends for gambling are gaming machines, so
Hmm.
pokies, like uh
Something that I believe
casinos,
shouldn't exist or should exist in extremely low
yep,
quantities.
casinos and betting on the horses.
Horses. What we subject horses to in horse races is atrocious. But that's a conversation for another time.
And I've also just seen a report that on television, so across all of the free-to-air channels, there were in 2016 there were 374 advertisements for gambling services per day. There are 5 times as many advertisements for gambling services as there are for alcohol.
So I just took a moment, like I just kind of I don't know, like you know that thing where like you're so stunned at something where you stop working for a second, like your brain
Mm-hmm.
just malfunctions. Yeah, that's you said 5 times as many as alcohol, right?
Yep. And the way they get around this, there's actually laws in place that you're not meant to advertise gambling during sports broadcasts. And how this came up was because our good mate Albo has, in a dazzling display of bipartisan cooperation, agreed with opposition leader Peter Dutton proposing a ban on betting advertisements during matches because footy time is family time. Albo has concurred that all of the betting ads are annoying. There's already rules for this. But if
There
you
are rules for
advertise
that.
during your pre-game and your halftime and your post-game broadcasts, because those are technically different broadcasts to the actual sports broadcast.
That's just bullshit. So okay, see, this is what I think should actually be in our constitution is if something breaks the spirit of the law, even if it doesn't technically break the letter of the law, it breaks the law. And like the spirit of the law should be
Okay.
written out in terms to give a good idea.
Unfortunately, we can't do that because there are so many things that
I
break the
look,
letter of the law but not the spirit of the law that are kind of required for society to function.
well,
And we can't just rip the entire legal system apart as much as I'd love to.
here's the thing though. I actually, you know what? We'll discuss that in a different episode. Well, actually, that'll be
So
another episode. Talking about the legal system.
I've really gone for the how here. How is gambling so entrenched? And the short form is that Australia is, for better or worse, a nation of gamblers by comparison to our colleagues basically anywhere else in the world. It
We
is
do not have a
a
healthy relationship with gambling.
don't have a healthy relationship with alcohol or smoking either, but that's never stopped
Well,
us.
smoking's
Um,
kind of come down a bit though, hasn't it? Like we've
yes,
seen less
yes, it
smoking.
has.
But then again, that was a sustained campaign over years.
So the
We need
taxes
that.
paid by wagering service providers, so bookies,
Mm.
exceed 1 billion per annum
Wait, $1 billion. That's it.
in taxes. Yes,
That
which
sounds
is,
like
as far as
nothing.
I can tell, that's more than some multinational corporations pay to do business in Australia. Heyo!
I mean, you know what? I the point where the literal gambling lobby is better at paying taxes than most other businesses than the big like when you're
So
worse than that. Every part of this is full of irony and sadness. Also, we've run out of time.
but we've got the how. We've got the how, and that is that gambling is targeted to make us feel good. And that in Australia, it is very, very heavily advertised, very loosely regulated, and you only need to walk into a pub to find a way to gamble.
Mm.
As for the why, it's simple marketing. Gambling has the potential to be as destructive as any other form of addiction. Certainly we've all heard horror stories on like 60 Minutes or whatever of people who've gambled away their house, who've ended up in debt, who've taken their lives off the rails. And we can't really we can't just outlaw gambling. Like, we could, but it would be massively unpopular because, like, what is a $5 wager between friends on the outcome of the footy match?
Mm.
It's still gambling, it's just less formal.
Yeah.
The gambling lobby has the potential to be a fifth pillar because they are everywhere. They are pervasive, and Australia, culturally speaking, has a gambling problem. And someone else here, I just need to find the chap's name. Kalani Scarrott has made the observation that in light of policy failures, one can very much argue that successive Australian governments have had a gambling problem.
Mm.
So I don't have any answers on how to fix this. I don't know how we would curtail the gambling industry in a way that preserved individuals' right to choose to have a little bit of a bet and simultaneously
I don't I
balance the
don't think
damage.
I don't think the problem is individuals betting with their friends. The problem is essentially like industrial level gambling with pokies and with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and with like basically apps and services that are so convenient and easy to get your hands on that you like I could download TAB or Sportsbet right now and start gambling. It'd take me less than 5 minutes, probably less than two.
Please don't. You're already poor.
I'm not going to because you know my mama taught me better.
Your mother has a lot to answer for, but not on this one.
Yes, yes. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of I think we'll probably do a part two to this, like how can we fix Australia's gambling problem? Um, but yeah, I think for now we'll end it there in that wonderful pit of sadness.
In other things you can be addicted to, a certain kind of sadness.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.
I'll see you all later.